A millionaire asked his son to choose a new mother among 5 rich women. But he chose the poor maid. The grand mansion of Malik Hassan stood like a palace on the edge of the city. Its marble pillars gleamed under the sunlight, and the iron gates opened only for the most powerful men and women in town. For years it had been a house of laughter, wealth, and prestige. But since the tragic death of Mrs. Hassan, the beloved wife and mother, the walls of the mansion carried only silence. Inside, Malik Hassan, a self-made millionaire known for his ruthless business sense, sat in the leather chair of his study. His sharp eyes scanned the documents on his desk, but his mind was elsewhere. His wife's absence had left more than an emotional void, it had created a fracture in the family itself. His young son, Aryan, only 10 years old, had grown quiet, distant, and lonely. The boy was bright, sensitive, and far more observant than most his age. That evening, Malik Hassan made a decision that would shock everyone in the mansion. He called Aryan to the drawing room. The boy appeared, dressed in a small black suit that made him look older than he was. Standing behind Aryan was Aliyah, the maid. She was dressed in her simple blue uniform with a white apron, her head lowered as always. She had been working in the mansion for only a year, but Aryan was strangely attached to her. He trusted her, laughed with her, and often confided in her when no one else was around. "Son," Malik Hassan began, his deep voice echoing in the hall, "your mother is gone, and you need someone to guide you. I cannot raise you alone. Today I have invited 5 women, wealthy, elegant, and respectable, to this house. They are all willing to be your new mother. And I will let you choose." The words hit Aryan like a storm. Choose? How could a child choose a new mother? His heart raced, his small fists tightened, but he remained silent. He had learned to hide his emotions in front of his father. The tall double doors opened, and one by one, the 5 women entered. They were dressed in shimmering gowns, their hair styled perfectly, their perfume filling the air with an almost suffocating sweetness. Each of them smiled, though some smiles were more forced than others, as their eyes examined the boy and the mansion that might soon belong to them. "Look at them carefully," Malik Hassan instructed. "One of them will become your new mother. A woman who can raise you in comfort, in wealth, in dignity. Choose wisely." Aryan looked at the women. They were beautiful, no doubt. Their jewelry sparkled like stars, their voices were soft, almost rehearsed. But to him, they felt like strangers in a theater, playing roles on a stage he had never asked for. His throat tightened. None of them reminded him of his real mother. The warmth of her hands, the gentleness of her eyes, the way she used to sit with him by the window and tell stories before bedtime. In that moment of confusion, Aryan's gaze shifted to the corner of the room. Aliyah, the maid, stood silently, trying to make herself invisible. She wasn't rich, she wasn't glamorous, and she wasn't even part of this contest. Yet, in Aryan's young heart, she was the only one who made him feel safe. The only one who reminded him of love without conditions. The boy took a deep breath. His small hand slowly rose, his finger trembling as he pointed, not at the women in gowns, not at the future queens of the mansion, but at the maid in the corner. "I choose her," Aryan said softly, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. The hall froze. The women gasped, their smiles vanishing. Malik Hassan's eyes widened in disbelief. Aliyah's hand flew to her chest, her lips parting in shock. She had never imagined such words would come from the boy's mouth. But Aryan did not lower his hand. His finger remained pointed, his decision unshaken. "I choose her," he repeated, louder this time. And just like that, the carefully constructed world of Malik Hassan began to crack. The silence that followed Aryan's words was heavy, almost unbearable. The 5 elegant women exchanged sharp glances, their painted smiles twisting into frowns of insult. To be rejected by a 10-year-old boy, while standing in a millionaire's mansion, was humiliation they had never tasted before. One of them, draped in a golden gown, stepped forward, her heels clicking against the marble floor. "Mr. Hassan," she said with a stiff smile. Surely the boy is only confused. He doesn't understand the responsibility of such a choice. He cannot mean her. Her eyes flicked toward Aliyah with undisguised contempt. A second woman, her voice sharper, added, "Yes, he must choose among us. How could a maid, a servant, be considered a mother?" Malik Hassan's jaw tightened. He had built empires, crushed competitors, and commanded respect in every room he entered. But in this moment, he faced defiance from the one person he least expected, his own son. He turned to Arian, his tone controlled yet firm. "Arian," he said, "this is not a game. These women are educated, wealthy, and capable of providing you a future that a maid could never offer. Think carefully. Choose again." Arian's small body trembled, but his eyes did not waver. "No, father. I want her. I choose Aliyah." The women gasped again. Aliyah's heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to speak, to deny the boy's choice, to step back into the shadows where she belonged. But her voice refused to come. One of the women sneered. "This is ridiculous. You would allow a child to shame us like this? Imagine what society will say, your heir raised by a maid." The words stung Malik Hassan's pride. His reputation was his fortress, and this moment threatened to tear it down brick by brick. He rose from his chair, his tall frame casting a shadow across the room. "Enough," he thundered. His voice carried the weight of a man used to obedience. The women fell silent. "Arian, you will not embarrass me. These women are here because they belong to our world. A maid belongs to the servants' quarters, not the master's table." But Arian did not back down. His eyes brimmed with tears, yet his voice was steady. "I don't want another mother who loves your money. I want someone who loves me." He turned to Aliyah. "She already does." The words pierced deeper than any argument. For a fleeting moment, even Malik Hassan faltered. He had always taught Arian to be strong, to be decisive, to know what he wanted. And now the boy was proving that very lesson, but against him. The 5 women exchanged whispers. They could sense the storm brewing, and did not wish to be caught in its center. One by one, with tight smiles and cold words, they excused themselves and left the mansion. The echo of their heels faded, leaving behind only the family, the maid, and the silence. Aliyah finally found her voice. She stepped forward, her eyes lowered in respect. "Sir, please forgive him," she said softly. "He's only a child. He doesn't know what he's saying. I am just a maid. I cannot be what he asks." But Arian clutched her hand tightly, his small fingers trembling. "You already are, Aliyah. You take care of me, you tell me stories, you sit with me when I'm afraid. You remind me of Mama. I don't care about rich dresses or big houses. I want you." Tears burned in Aliyah's eyes, but she quickly turned her face away. She was poor, an orphan raised in hardship, and now a maid in this grand mansion. The idea of standing in the place of Malik Hassan's late wife was unthinkable, dangerous even. Yet Arian's grip on her hand was desperate, pleading, and heartbreakingly sincere. Malik Hassan's anger simmered. He dismissed the servants, closed the heavy doors, and stood before the boy and the maid. "Listen to me, Arian," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "A mother is not chosen by feelings. A mother is chosen by her ability to secure your future. This maid," his eyes flicked to Aliyah with disdain, "has nothing. She can give you nothing." Arian shook his head. "She gives me everything I need. Love, care, time. Isn't that what a mother is?" The words struck like lightning. For the first time in years, Malik Hassan felt the hollowness in his chest, the emptiness his wealth could never fill. But his pride would not allow him to yield. "You are my son," he said coldly, "and you will not make a fool of this family." Arian's lips trembled. He looked at his father, then at Aliyah, then back again. For the first time, he realized the depth of the battle he had started. It was not just about a choice of a new mother, it was about love against wealth, heart against pride, innocence against power. The boy stood his ground. Then let me be a fool. But I will not change my choice. Aliyah gasped, tears slipping from her eyes. Malik Hassan's face hardened, his silence more terrifying than his words. The room was heavy with a storm that had only just begun. The battle lines were drawn. The mansion had never felt so divided. On one side stood Aryan, small, fragile, yet unshakably firm in his choice. On the other, Malik Hassan, a man whose pride had built an empire but was now being tested by the defiance of his own son. Between them stood Aliyah, the maid whose heart was torn apart by love, fear, and a sense of unworthiness. 4 days the house was filled with tension. Malik Hassan avoided speaking to Aryan except in cold commands. Aliyah tried to keep her distance, but Aryan clung to her presence more than ever. The boy would sneak into the kitchen just to sit with her, refusing to eat unless she was by his side. At night, when the storm clouds gathered above the mansion, Aryan would whisper, "Don't leave me, Aliyah. Please don't leave me." And though every part of her wanted to protect him, she knew that Malik Hassan's patience was thinning. One evening, Malik Hassan returned home from a business meeting, his face darker than the night outside. He found Aryan asleep on the sofa, his head resting in Aliyah's lap. Aliyah froze, guilt flooding her chest. She tried to rise, but Aryan's small hand held onto her arm even in sleep. The sight pierced Malik Hassan deeper than he expected. It was the same way Aryan used to sleep in his late mother's lap. For the first time, he saw not just a maid, but a woman filling the void his wife had left behind. Yet, instead of softening his heart, it ignited his anger. "This ends now," Malik Hassan declared. His voice thundered through the hall, waking Aryan, who sat up in shock. "Father," Aryan began, but Malik raised a hand. "No more nonsense. Tomorrow morning I will send Aliyah away. She does not belong here. You will forget this madness and accept reality." The boy's face turned pale. "No. You can't do that." His voice cracked with desperation. "She's all I have. If you send her away, you'll lose me too." Those words struck harder than any blow. Malik Hassan's eyes narrowed. "Are you threatening me, Aryan?" "I'm telling you the truth," Aryan whispered, tears streaming down his face. "You think money is everything. But money doesn't tuck me into bed. Money doesn't listen to me when I cry. Money doesn't love me. She does. And if she goes, I go with her." Aliyah gasped, her hand trembling against her lips. "Aryan, don't say that." But the boy's voice rose, echoing in the hall. "I would rather live in a small house with Aliyah than in this mansion without her." The words shattered the room. For a long, unbearable silence, Malik Hassan could only stare at his son. His pride told him to punish this insolence, to assert his authority. But his heart, the part he had buried long ago, was trembling. That night, unable to sleep, Malik Hassan wandered the empty halls of the mansion. He passed by the family portraits, his wife's smiling face staring back at him from the gilded frame. He remembered the promises he had once made to her, that Aryan would grow up in love, that he would never lack a mother's care. But in his pursuit of wealth and reputation, had he forgotten what truly mattered? The next morning, Malik summoned Aliyah to his study. She entered cautiously, her hands folded, her eyes lowered. "You have created a storm in my house," Malik said, his tone sharp but weary. "Do you realize what Aryan's choice means? The world will laugh at us. A millionaire's son raised by a maid, it is scandalous. My associates, my rivals, society itself will mock me." Aliyah's voice was soft but steady. "Sir, I never asked for this. Aryan chose me, not because of who I am, but because of what he feels. If you wish, I will leave. But know this, your son's heart will break. And some wounds never heal, no matter how much wealth you cover them with." Her words lingered long after she left the room. Malik Hassan found himself pacing, restless. For the first time in his life, the respect of society and the future of his son stood on opposite sides of the scale, and he did not know which way to lean. That evening, Arian confronted him again, his small figure trembling yet determined. "Father," he said, "you taught me to always speak the truth. This is my truth. I don't need a rich mother. I need Aliyah. If you take her away, you'll take away my happiness too." Malik stared into his son's tearful eyes. He saw not rebellion, but raw pain, the kind of pain no amount of wealth could heal. In that moment, the mighty millionaire realized he was losing the one thing that mattered more than all the riches he owned: his son's trust. And for the first time in years, Malik Hassan felt powerless. The following morning, the mansion seemed unusually quiet. The servants moved cautiously, whispering about the storm that had shaken the house the night before. Word had already begun to spread in hushed tones. The young heir had chosen the maid over 5 wealthy women. Some called it madness, others a scandal, but for Arian, it was simply the truth of his heart. In the study, Malik Hassan sat alone, staring out of the window. His eyes, once sharp and unyielding, now carried the weight of sleepless nights. On his desk lay 2 documents. One was an invitation to a prestigious gala where he would be expected to present his future wife. The other was a resignation letter Aliyah had quietly slipped under his door that morning. Her letter was simple, written in neat handwriting. "Sir, I cannot stay. My presence is breaking your family apart. Please forgive me. Take care of Arian, for he deserves all the love in the world. Aliyah." Malik's chest tightened as he read the words again and again. The thought of losing her, the only person Arian had clung to since his mother's death, gnawed at him in a way he could not explain. For the first time, Malik Hassan questioned whether wealth, power, and reputation were worth the price of his son's broken heart. Arian stormed into the study, his small hands clenched, his eyes red from crying. "Father, where is Aliyah?" he demanded. "I can't find her." Malik remained silent, torn between pride and compassion. But Arian, trembling with rage, slammed his fists on the desk. "You don't understand. She's the only one who makes me feel loved. Mama is gone, and you're always busy with your business. If you take Aliyah away too, I'll have nothing." The boy's words cracked the last of Malik's defenses. He had always prided himself on being unbreakable, but now, before his son's tears, he felt utterly defeated. For the first time in years, Malik Hassan's heart softened. He rose from his chair, walked over to Arian, and placed his heavy hand on the boy's shoulder. "Son," he whispered, his voice trembling, "is she truly what you want?" Arian nodded fiercely, his tears falling freely. "Yes, father. I don't care if she's rich or poor. She's kind. She's real. She's family." Malik closed his eyes. The truth was undeniable. His late wife had always said that love was the only true wealth, and now Arian was reminding him of that wisdom. Slowly, Malik's pride gave way to something greater, love for his son. He summoned the servants to find Aliyah, who had been quietly packing her small suitcase in the maid's quarters. When she was brought to the study, she stood nervously, her eyes lowered. "Aliyah," Malik said, his voice steady but softer than ever before, "I was blind. I thought wealth could replace love, that reputation could heal wounds. But my son has shown me otherwise. If Arian sees you as his mother, then I will not stand in his way." Aliyah's eyes widened, tears welling up as she clasped her hands together. "Sir, I never intended for this." Malik raised a hand gently. "I know. And that is what makes it real. You did not seek wealth or power. You gave my son what even I could not give him, unconditional love." He turned to Arian, who was already smiling through his tears. "From this day on, she is not just the maid of this house. She is family." Arian threw his arms around Aliyah, holding her tightly. "I told you, father. I choose her." The weight of those words no longer felt like defiance, they felt like salvation. For the first time since his wife's death, Malik Hassan felt the mansion alive again, filled with warmth and love instead of silence and pride. News of the scandal spread, of course. The city whispered about the millionaire whose son had chosen a maid over 5 wealthy women. Some mocked, some judged, but none of it mattered anymore. Malik Hassan had finally learned that society's respect was nothing compared to a child's happiness. Years later, people would still talk about the story of the millionaire's son and the maid. They would say it was foolish, reckless, even absurd. But for Aryan, it was the most important choice of his life, the day he found his true mother. And for Malik Hassan, it was the day he realized that sometimes, the smallest voices carry the greatest truths. The boy had chosen love over wealth, and in doing so, he saved them all.